Those who have ears to hear, let them listen. This morning, I want to talk about how I quit smoking because I had struggled with that for such a long time in my life. I started smoking in 7th grade and continued all the way up until when I'm 20. So I don't know how, that's like 8 years. And so I want to tell you how I quit because I still get tempted. I haven't done it since my 20th birthday, the day that I'm going to tell you about, but I still get tempted because it's been an addiction that it's an evil addiction that plagues you for a long time. And people who smoke, I'm not going to talk to you about the negative consequences of your health because realistically, you don't care. You might even hope that it kills you early because you do it because you're depressed. And you do it because you're depressed because that's the only way you know how to heal, and you think that the weed's helping. As soon as you try to stop, though, promise you're not going to feel any healed. You're going to feel a whole lot worse as soon as you start to relapse and detox and all that stuff. That process is awful. What it does is it dulls your senses. And you might be saying, yeah, that's the point. But the thing is, you're dulling your senses to everything. You're becoming numb to even God. What negative affected me to the point where I knew I needed to stop. And I didn't even realize it, how bad it was, until I got deliverance from the things that I needed deliverance from before I stopped smoking. So all I had to deal with was the relapses and all that stuff. So I'm very fortunate. So if you include people around you in your process, it can go a lot smoother and faster. I'm not saying it's not going to be tough, but it might be a little bit easier. It numbs your senses to God, right? So what you're doing every time that you sin willingly, like there's a difference between sinning on accident, like I'm rude to my sibling on accident, or I compulsively like get mad at somebody on the road, you know what I mean? There's a difference between that and willingly choosing to sin, choosing to do something that you know is wrong, even if it's an addiction. The fact that it's an addiction doesn't excuse what you're doing and make it less of a sin. You're still choosing to do that addiction every single time. And that doesn't just go for smoking. That goes for porn. That goes for drinking. That goes for sleeping around. That goes for every single thing that like really affects your soul, really affects your spirit. But it dulls you. And what you're actually doing is you're hardening your heart towards God, because you're not listening to his laws. And so you're opening up for mental issues. You're opening yourself up. People say like, oh no, it keeps me regular. It doesn't. That's what I thought too. I was on a perma-fry for 8 years. It doesn't make you normal. And you might say, oh, well, you're just not a functioning stoner. I was. All right? And maybe you think I wasn't. And maybe you think you are. I promise it's obvious. Everyone can tell. You're hardening your heart towards God, opening up. What I had was BPD, borderline personality disorder. Or I think it was actual personality disorder. I wouldn't be myself. I felt like the only time I was myself was when I was high. But the thing is, when I was high, I wasn't even myself. I wasn't even my true self because I wasn't connected with God. And people say, oh, it makes me feel closer to God when I'm high. No, it doesn't, bro. You get the same feeling if you watch National Geographic when you're high, bro. Like, that's a lie that you're believing, okay? It's complete stupidity to think that you're closer to God when you're high. Because after I'd been saved, I felt like every time I smoked, my prayers just didn't get through. And I know that that's wrong, but like I couldn't even read my Bible. I couldn't even do anything. There was about 2 weeks after or 3 weeks after I got saved, when I was still smoking. And I got so convicted every time I did it. So I'd like literally hit it and then force myself to get unhigh in unhealthy ways. That was probably damaging to my immune system, just as getting high is, right? So on my 20th birthday, worst day of my life, completely alone, super depressed. All I got was a phone call from home, which was awesome, but that's all I got. It's the worst day of my life. Honestly was. And I just realized, man, God has given me 20 years on this earth. He definitely does not want me wasting it being high. When you're high, you're wasting your time. You truly are, because you're not gonna be able to remember what you're doing. I don't remember hardly anything from high school or elementary school. And I'm only at college age, you know what I mean? But I have a terrible memory because of all those mental issues, because of all the smoking I did to numb myself. It doesn't help to numb. You're eventually going to feel the pain that you're trying to avoid. So you might as well do it now, so that way it doesn't happen later on. Because if you go to your grave high, which is what I wanted to do, you're not going to end up in heaven. I hate to say it, but it's true. But the great thing is you have the opportunity today for it to be your last day. Go jump in the water. Honestly, that's what I did. I drove down to the beach, buried my stuff in the sand, took one last hit, of course, buried it, jumped in the ocean, hopped out. It was the best feeling I ever had. And I'd throw my stuff out the window. I'd try to quit before. But when I involved God in the process, He made it happen.